Morning, Wayfinders. How's everybody doing? It's a holiday weekend. Have you had your coffee? Okay, let's try that in. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? You know, I was down in the kids earlier, and they're not even doing anything. They're way louder than y'all. I don't know if maybe they had your coffee. Well, hey, good morning. My name is Pastor Todd. We're so glad you're here with us this morning. If you're a guest, if you're watching online, we want to know that we have been praying for you. We've been praying that today would be the day that God would not only meet you, but that there would be a breakthrough in your heart, in your life, in your spiritual journey. At Wayfinders, we're about three things. We love first, because when we get outside of ourselves and we serve others, something happens to us in the process. It opens our hearts up as well as it changes our city. And so we choose to love first in all kinds of ways. We do life together because we weren't meant to do it alone. We're actually better together. And in fact, we believe that all of us, no matter where we are on the spiritual journey, have something to teach each other. And that's a beautiful thing. And then we say we live the story. We live out God's dreams for us here and now, for our world here and now. We make God's kingdom present where we are. It's a great thing to be a part of. And if you don't know us, we don't pass the plate on Sunday mornings, but we do have these joy buckets on the side. You can give on those joy buckets, or you can give online in 10 seconds at wayfinders.info. We have a next step site. It has everything that you need to know from events coming up. You can register for stuff, sign up for things. If you hear about anything this morning that you want to get involved in, you want to be baptized, we have baptism coming up. You can find all of that on here, wayfinders.info. And the cool thing is, if you're a guest, we'd love to connect with you. In your seats or around your seats are some white connection cards. You can fill those out and drop them in the Joy Bucket, but you can also do it digitally online. Just click the I'm New tab at wayfinders.info. So one of the things that we like to do, because you may not know everybody in the room, and because we need to get our blood flowing and be standing and enjoy the rest of this morning, because the kids are already yelling down there. You can't hear them because there's chickens in between us and them. If you ever want to see some crazy chickens, just walk down towards the kids area. I'm not joking. The school has chickens. But everybody stand up, turn to two people that you do not know and say, I'm so glad to meet you this morning. God's got good things.
to you. To you our hearts are open, nothing here is hidden. You are our one desire. And you alone are holy, only you are worthy, God. Let your fire fall down. And earth is quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and sees it all shaken and stirred, can be calmed and broken from my regard. Sing it with me. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Far be it from me not believe, even when my eyes can't see, and this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and wind still know his name. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and wind still know his name. So let go, my soul, and trust in him. The waves and wind still know his name. The waves and wind still know his name. And it is well with my soul. And it is well with my soul. And it is well eyes are on you. Through it all it is well. Through it all, and my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. And you've been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. And you've been so, so kind to me. Know the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I know it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Know the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. And you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Yes, you did. You have been so, so kind to me. Sing the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I know it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Know the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Do you believe that? Snow won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing, there's no shadow. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, or lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing that out, sing. There's no shadow you won't light up, a mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. And there's no wall you won't
Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. This past week, God gave me a beautiful opportunity to walk with him. There's a high school girl in Hayes CISD, a precious sweet mama who is in need of a home. And sometimes when God asks us to do things, it's not because he wants us to be the answer, but because we're a point of connection for his answer. I didn't have a home to offer, 3-bedroom house, 3 little girls. So I asked a friend of mine to pray about it. And she said, I'm not just supposed to pray, I'm supposed to be that answer. And we got the opportunity to sit down with the program coordinator for the pregnancy education and parenting program in Hayes CISD. And on Tuesday, there's a meeting between my friend and this sweet girl and the coordinator and her caseworker. And y'all, I have a 2nd grader and a little girl who just started kindergarten, and it was an exhausting week for me. But can I tell you that walking with Jesus in that experience, I came out so energized and so full. And so often, rest is helping someone else rest. But rest is always in the presence of Jesus. And so we're going to take a few minutes, and you can pray by yourself. You can pray with the person sitting next to you. Paul and I will be up front if you want us to pray for you. And I just invite you to pray about how Jesus might help you be the source of someone else's rest, and also how he can be yours. I'll give you a few minutes to pray.
All these pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole. Empty-handed, but not forsaken. I've been set free. I've been set free. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see you now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. You take our failure, you take our weakness, you set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart, Lord, I'll be your vessel, the world to see your life in me. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to life. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we love you and we want to thank you for your amazing grace. Lord, open our hearts this morning because we want to hear from you. Thank you for all you've done and all you are going to do. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thanks. Well, good morning. My name is Chris, and it is so good to see all of you here this morning. Welcome to September. If you didn't realize it, we are in September. So we've got a number of things that I'm going to fill you in on here. I'm going to hit a bunch of topics here, so many I had to write them down so I didn't forget any. So, as Todd mentioned earlier, wayfinders.info, you can go to it on a phone, and it'll be formatted for your phone. If you go to it on a computer, it'll look slightly different, and it'll be formatted to a computer. But it's got everything that we're going to mention here this morning if you need to follow up, if you're going to forget something, which you probably will. That's why I wrote things down, right? So, going to go through them real quick here. Coming up in September, the first thing is adopt a teacher. This is something that we have committed to do for the school that we are meeting in right now. So there are 62 teachers that the principal of this school has asked us, Wayfinders Church, to pray for throughout this school year and to write encouraging notes to throughout the school year. She has pinpointed 4 or 5 points throughout the year that she knows that a teacher would benefit from a note, maybe slip a candy bar or a little something, soda or something with it to just encourage them. So we have 62 teachers that we are responsible for to kind of assign to different people to follow up with, write notes to, and things like that. We are working on coordinating that, but if you are interested in adopting a teacher or a couple teachers, if you don't mind writing a couple cards, that would be awesome. It's going to take an all-in effort from us. And also, if you look around the room, we're still a church in its infancy a little bit. We've only been here a year and a half, and 62 is a lot of teachers. So if you have friends and you're thinking of people that, oh, man, my friend would love to do something like that, invite them in on it. That's a great way to get somebody tied into what we're doing here. You are welcome to, on wayfinders.info, you'll find a card that looks like this. And if you were able to scroll down on this a little bit, you'll see a place you can sign up and let us know you're interested. These cards are on the end of each row, too. You're always welcome to just write it at the bottom of the card and put your name on it. Drop them in the buckets over there, and we'll follow up that way as well. So that is going on now. We're working this month on getting all those teachers assigned. So if you're willing to do something like that with us, please let us know. Also, in September, coming up in 2 weeks, we've got a couple things going on. 2 weeks from today, we are going to do baptisms. The only times we've ever done baptisms in our history as Wayfinders has been in the river, which doesn't have any water in it right now. So we are going to do it in the parking lot out here. We're going to borrow a dunk tank kind of thing, and it's going to be exciting. We've got several people already signed up for it. If that interests you, if you want to know more about what it even means to be baptized, it's simply just an outward expression of what God's doing in your heart, and it's just a way to tell the world, this is who I am now. So if you're interested in learning more about that, doesn't mean you're necessarily signing up if you contact us. It just means we'll follow up with you and kind of have the conversation. If you're interested in getting in on that, like I said, we've got 2 weeks to get signed up for that. We're also going to have lunch together here that day afterwards. There was an email about signing up for potluck. A lot of you did already. If you didn't get that and you want to know more about bringing something for food for that day, you can write that on the card as well at the bottom, and we'll follow up. But I think a lot of it's already covered, so I think we're doing pretty good on that. Also, that weekend, we have another thing coming up called Finding Our Way. It's going to happen on you see the dates at the bottom there, the 15th and the 17th. That is a Saturday morning, and the 17th is a Monday evening. Those are the same, so it's not go to both. It's pick one that fits best with your schedule. And what this is, we did this a couple times last year. This is a series, a seminar, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's a couple hours, and we're going to get together, and it's really kind of just like a introduction to what do I do with the Bible. Like, I think it's probably important. I don't really know what to do with it necessarily, and we're just going to have a conversation. It's going to be very relaxed. It's going to be at Summer Moon Coffee small group setting to just have that conversation and kind of lower the maybe the anxiety level a little bit about what it means to pick up my Bible and what do I do with it. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you would like to know more about that, we would love to have you sign up. Again, there's a card that looks like this on wayfinders.info. You can click it. You can even choose which of the two you want to attend. It does help us quite a bit if you're able to RSVP, so we know how big of a group to expect on each of those two options. Also, as always, you can always write it on the card. I personally go through these cards every week, so if you write it on the card, I promise we'll follow up with you with that as well. And then finally, one last thing coming up. Like I said, it's a busy month, a lot going on. On the 30th, that is the last Sunday of this month. If you do not know, if you haven't been with us before, we have made a commitment as a community that when there are 5 Sundays in a month, we're going to take that last Sunday, that 5th Sunday, and we're going to intentionally get outside of what we normally do here and go serve the community around us. And we've got a really cool opportunity to do that this month because this is a 5 Sunday month. On the 30th, we're going to be here in this building and in the parking lot right out here. And we're going to have a big community tailgate, and it's going to be for a cause. So it's not just a party, it's a party with a cause. We're partnering with the new clothing bank that the Hayes CISD has put together for kids in the community that need some clothes. It's completely free to anybody that needs clothes. A lot of people donate their used clothes, which is awesome, but what they really need is brand new socks and brand new underwear. And so what we want to do is commit to bringing some of that ourselves, to invite as many people in the community as we can to come party with us that day. And your admission is a pair of socks, a pack of socks, or a pack of underwear. And for anybody that brings that with them and signs their name down, we're going to have some really cool giveaway prizes, like good stuff. Like I can't spoil it yet because it's not all in, but really good prizes. I'm not talking about like a T-shirt. I'm talking like cool stuff. So that's coming. End of the month. You will hear more about it as we go, but we need your help to put that on. If you're able to be here that morning and just kind of do what it takes to put on a party, you know, if you've ever had people at your house, you know it takes stuff. So we would love if you're able to. Again, you can write it on the card. I'm willing to help that morning. And just really talk it up and invite people is one of the huge things we need as well. So thank you. I know I covered a lot of ground in a little bit of time, so you can always follow up. Grab one of us if you need to. Write it on the card or look on wayfinders.info. Thanks.
So I was feeling the weight of it. Certain moments have certain kinds of weights to them. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And certain things that come up in our lives, they weigh heavy on us. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get into seasons where it's go mode and I burn the candle on both ends and every which way from Sunday. That's an expression I heard this week, every which way from Sunday. So I'm going to use it because it just sounds cool. But I was burning every candle possible because I had this sense that not only did I have to provide certain things for my family, but I had certain inner things that I wanted to accomplish, I'm a pastor, so things for God that I wanted to accomplish. And I was in go mode all the time. And when I get in go mode, I don't have an off button, and I tend to value tasks more than people. Along with all the problems that come with that, I was feeling the weight of the moment when someone looked at me and said, "Hey, you look tired." Now, in some ways, like, you look tired, like we wear that like a badge of honor. Yes, I'm tired, I'm accomplished. And then this person said, "When do you take a Sabbath?" I was busted. Here I am, I'm a pastor, and for all intents and purposes, I'm teaching people how to live a life that God describes in the scriptures. And one of the quintessential things called the Sabbath, a day set apart that's a different rhythm, a day off full of rest, but full of reorienting and re-energizing with God's presence and spirit and family and enjoying God's provisions. I was not doing that. I was busted. You ever been busted? The moment it was heavy and then it hits you. And the challenge is I often get lost in my go mode. I often lose what's most important because I find my value and my identity wrapped up in what I'm doing. I had lost the sacred rhythm. So if you didn't catch it by the title up here and the little video that played, we're starting a brand new series called Don't Waste Your Work. For how many of you, at times in your life, work has been a four-letter word? Okay, it's always a four-letter word, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, you get up, work. I don't want to go, that job's terrible. I don't want. See, I began to ask the question as I explored some of this, why do we do all of this? What is it all for? Has anybody ever asked that? Like, why do I do all this? Is it just to provide for my family? Is it so that I can give my resources away? Is it so that I can retire and do other stuff? Like, why are we toiling away? And so we thought we'd bring this 4-part message series on work. And we're going to deal with rest. We're going to deal with calling and purpose, and we're going to deal with failure. Ooh. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and I think through the whole series, what you're going to find is not only who you are in the midst of it, but maybe a little bit more of why you are the way you are and what God might want to do with it. If we could answer that question alone, it would be a pretty epic series because I feel like I'm always asking that question of why am I here and what am I doing? And so, we want to move from being a 4-letter word to living into the place where God has formed us to create, to build, to steward His creation, and to worship, not just on Sundays, but making our Monday through Friday be about God's work. And it doesn't have to mean that you change your job, though you may want to change your job. So with that in mind, let's get back to it. Today, I want to introduce you to this Jewish word, this concept that I got introduced to early on, but failed to recognize its significance. You ever catch that? Like, you get introduced to something, and then years later, you're like, oh, that's what that meant. Well, after I was busted, all of these things came surfacing back, and I was introduced to this Jewish word called menuha. Everybody say menuha. You got to get the at the end, right? Menuha. Yeah, you could say menua. It just sounds way too much like manure. Anyway, menuha means rest. It can mean Sabbath. It can mean a lot of things, but it's this idea, the Sabbath or the Shabbat, is creating a rhythm where we stop working to enter into a different rhythm. And so the reason why menuha gets translated rest as it is the break point that you stop working and you start this other rhythm. Interestingly enough, the root word nuah is where we get the name Noah from in the Bible. And so his name actually means rest. I don't have time to get into the significance of how God was frustrated with humanity and how this one person was able to rest, because God's not a God that's angry, but loving of us. We'll get to that in a little bit, I guess. Anyway, there's this sense in which we can often and easily, and I know it's true in my own life, miss this thing that is cooked into the fabric of humanity if we don't get menuha. I want to look with you just really quickly at this story. Jesus had been teaching and healing and traveling, doing ministry, and he gets invited into this home of two sisters. Well, really, one sister invites him, and the other one is present, as the story goes. And he's shown a meal of hospitality. We're just going to jump in. It'll be on the screen. It's on wayfinders.info if you want to follow along with message notes. You can even write yourself notes and email it to yourself later. But it's in Luke chapter 10. We'll start in verse 38. It says this, "Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me.' But the Lord answered her, 'Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her.'" The good part. Mary chose the good part, and it's necessary. That line just rung over and over and over in my heart because it opened something up. Martha is hard at work, right? Upon welcoming Jesus in, she knows what is necessary. The cooking, the cleaning, the fluffing of the pillows, the making everyone comfortable. She's up to all of the hospitality bit. That's the work. And she's so focused, it consumes her. I have to admit, on Sunday mornings, when we're setting all of this up, I get consumed with, is the screen showing all the cool things coming up so that people, when they walk in, they feel this way? Is the music going in the parking lot so that when you walk in, you know where to go and you feel greeted even if no one's actually in the parking? I get distracted with all these things that I become Martha really, really quickly. Because whether it's here or whether it's in our home, right, Holly? I get into go mode and I start thinking about these other things. I get focused on all the things that have to be done, and it does something to me because I fail to see what is actually necessary. And I think that's what's going on in this story. Because Jesus says, you're busy. You're preoccupied. Your anxiety is, are you going to get all these tasks done? But to what avail are all the tasks going to bring you? There's a necessary part, and it's the good part. It's the good part, and she's chosen it. Rest. Menuha. When we rest in, we rest on. We cease and we enter into what all the work was for. See, prepping the house is great, but if you're still prepping the house when the one who you were prepping for is there, you're missing the opportunity to connect. Right? All of the work was for something, and Martha was distracted with things that she thought was necessary, whereas Mary chose to rest, and she was fully present, fully engaged in the moment. She saw that being with Jesus was what all the work was for. Now, whether it is hosting somebody in your home, or making dinner and all the chores of home, or getting the kids' lunches to the bus stop, or the endless task list and client calls and meetings to take and things to do at work, if we think that's where the real life is, and all the ancillary stuff is prepping for that, we become anxious. And here's why. We miss and we can't enter into what is most important. Now, the rabbi that shared with me this word menuha, he described it like this, and this is really cool. Let's say you prepped and you made a big dinner and you got a bunch of friends over. He said menuha is the moment where you sit down and you eat the meal, but it's the moment right after everybody's done. You know that moment after everybody's done and you're sitting at the table, you're sitting around the patio in the backyard, you're sitting down, and nobody's doing the dishes yet. You're just enjoying the moment. You're being present. That's menuha. Rest. It's necessary, and it's the good part. See, this whole thing is cooked into the fabric of creation. And here's the crazy part is creation wouldn't be complete without rest. So it was commanded when God gives the Israelites these 10 commandments, they're learning what it means to be the people of God. And God gives them these list of priorities, of rules to kind of keep centered, to keep themselves, to really learn what it means to truly be human, because up to that point they had been slaves, right? And when they were slaves, what were they doing? They were working 7 days a week, building bricks, working, toiling. And their value was only placed on how much they produced and the quality of their production. Anybody ever feel like that's your life? My value is tied to my performance. My value is tied to how much I can produce and the quality of that production. And it's into that moment that these slaves who had been working 7 days a week, and God's trying to reorient them to the truth of reality of what it means to be fully human. And so then he drops this command in Exodus, and he says, remember the Sabbath day. Keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall do no work. It goes on to say this, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, and sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Holy means set apart. It's a portion. There's something different about the Sabbath, and it's this command rooted in the idea of the God who rests. There's something different about this type of rest. It's a joy. It's a fullness. It's entering into the party. It's like the whole week is building up for this moment where you get to be fully present with God, with your friends, with your family, where there is a sacred rhythm that reorients and centers your life and brings about the truth of what's really important. And we can easily miss it. So if you go all the way back, because it references that God created and in the seventh day he rested. If you go all the way back to the creation story, it's a poem in Hebrew. It's written as poetry. And poetry is beautiful. And it moves from chaos in the beginning. The Lord began to create, now the earth was formless and void, tohu bohu. It's utter chaos and desolation. And it moves from chaos to order. But in the midst of it, if you know Hebrew, there's this other symmetry that is happening. And it has to do with the idea of seven. Now, seven means fullness and completeness. It can mean richness, vitality, perfection. And they often create symbols out of numbers. But check this out. In this poem, the whole thing is building, because verse 1, where it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, it's actually 7 words in Hebrew. made up of 28 letters, which is 4 sets of 7. And it builds off of this to where you get into the second verse. It's 14 words. I could keep going. It's all divisible by 7 all the way through. In fact, the word earth is mentioned 21 times, 7 times 3. The word God is mentioned 35 times, 7 times 5. The phrase "it was so" and the phrase "it was good" are both mentioned 7 times. It's this idea that it's a fullness, and the whole thing builds to this 35-word section at the beginning of chapter 2, where it says this: "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day God finished his work and all that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all of his work that he had done." Verse 3, "So God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work." I love this picture of rest. And here's why it's really cool. Rest can mean a bunch of different things, right? Rest can mean I stop and I take a break, I take a nap. For some of us, that might mean a nice hammock, with waves close by. That's a rest. Rest can mean a lot of things, but you can also rest on. I meant to have a coffee cup here, but I drank it all. So rest on, right? I can rest on, or I can rest in. I can rest assurance. I can rest in this moment because something has happened. So rest can mean a lot of different things. So when he says he rested from the work, yeah, he ceased the work, but he ceased it so that he could enter in and be fully present. God rests, and it's something we need to take note of. That badge of honor of "I'm so tired" buys into this productivity lie. That my value, your value, our value as people is based on how much we produce, how much we create, how much we can get. God creates, and then God rests. God menuhas. He enters into the creation and enjoys it. He becomes fully available and present in it. If we really want to experience the fullness of life, we have to rest. And so there's this divine and sacred rhythm of menuha. Because really, not doing is doing, isn't it? Have you ever thought about this? If you were to take music, and I love music, right? But if you were to take music and you look at the notes, without the rest notes, you just have an endless slew of noise. It's not actually creating a rhythm that constructs music. If you look at architecture, right? I could have 2 columns, and I can set them up, and the space in between them is called negative space. Now, the columns are movable, and they're physical, and they're tactile, they're something, but the space in between them is also something. It creates an energy and a flow. It defines something. And so for us, if we're going to get this divine rhythm, what we're going to find out is when we rest, we remember that we're a human being, not a human doing. We remember that we work, we create, we arrange, we organize. Why? So we can cease, enjoy, and experience. If not, we just end up moving from thing to thing to thing, and we never enjoy, we never get to celebrate, we never get a win, we never take time to relate back to what God has been doing for us, or what we have done, or what we have. You ever met somebody who's really not happy not content with their life, my guess is they don't rest. You're anxious about a lot of things, and you're doing a lot of things, but Mary chose the good part, and it's necessary. The scripture that we're talking about, or that we're talking from, in the Ten Commandments and in Genesis, this was all arranged hundreds and hundreds of years later after they were given the command to rest, to have a Sabbath day. And the people of God, they didn't really follow through on that. And another country had taken them as slaves and exiled them out of their own country. And their prophets, who said, why did this happen? They pointed back to the idea of, we didn't rest. We didn't manuha. We didn't take the Sabbath seriously. We didn't rest the way God has this divine rhythm set out. And we valued production more than the people. And we valued these things because we couldn't remember who we are and what God had done for us. Their prophets suggest that when you don't rest, you actually lose perspective on what's important politically and economically and socially and all of the constructs that make us fully human. They lost themselves because they failed the sacred rhythm. So if we don't unplug, turn off, create free space, we may lose ourselves and the life God has for us. Why do we go? Why do we do? We go. We do, so that we can go more and do more. Have you ever met somebody who's on vacation, or they're going on vacation, but they're not really on vacation? Right? They're on vacation, but they brought their laptop, they brought their work, and they're thinking about work. They're not really gone from work, though they're physically departed from it. They haven't disengaged. Do you think that's restful? Because what it says is, though I've set aside a time to do something else, I'm unable to enter into it, because although I said yes to this, this is not the real thing. The real thing is this work over here. And I'm just biding my time till I can get back to it. If I did that, not only would my wife throw my laptop into the closest ocean or pool, she just laughed behind the curtain. She would, because she wants me to be fully present. And if I can't disengage, I mean, there are people that they can't disengage, they can't turn off, so they just keep going. Or have you ever been around a friend and what they say is, oh, we just had a lazy day. Like we slept in and we did absolutely nothing, and I feel so guilty about it. That ever happened? That kind of language it's almost toxic, because what it's eliciting is like, if we actually rest, we're failing to do the thing that is most important to us. So we just rest so that we can get back to work and be more productive. No. Manuha. This type of rest says all the work was done so that we can rest in it, so that we can enter into it. Now, there's a disclaimer. We're often waiting for, striving for, trying to find and wait for the next hit, the next adrenaline buzz. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? When your email goes off and says, hey, somebody likes me. Oh, it's more work. Hey, my text goes off. People know me. I'm alive. Oh, it's more work. Hey, if you actually stop to write down all the things that you actually have to do, from maintaining your house, your home, the relationships, with your work, with your obligations, if you took the time, it would be overwhelming if you listed them all in order, right? But it's a hit. It says, I'm important, I'm valuable. And if you ever got to the end of the day and no one called you, no one texted you, no one emailed you, you'd be like, am I forgotten? Because our society has so clogged up, we still haven't gotten it. Thousands of years from the time that this went out, we still haven't gotten it, and our value is still placed in our production. This type of rest, a Sabbath rest, is a day where the work is done even if it isn't. By the way, that's a great spot for an amen. The work is done even if it isn't. It allows us to breathe and think and enjoy what is most important. So here's some starting points as we draw to a close. Here's some starting points for you. You ready? Think about a home with no menuha. Right? I work, Holly works, we're constantly going. If we don't have a rhythm of rest, if it's go, 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 produce, 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 think about what that does to our kids. Tell me about your grades. Tell me what you did today. We're taking you to karate, we're taking you to sports, we're taking you to music, we're taking you to... Your value is only based on your performance and what you did. Because if I'm not resting, if I'm not taking time to be fully present and engaged, if I'm not taking time to hear what's going on in their hearts and life, but I'm wrapped up in keeping them so busy and challenging them to produce, and I'm not saying we shouldn't challenge our kids to produce. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. We should challenge our kids. But if I have a home where there is not a rhythm of rest, then all of the value is only tied to the performance. And that works not only with kids, but any relationship. Because when you enter in a relationship with no rest, what you're saying is a list. If you just do this, then I will. And it's conditional. Right? Because I can't rest in who you are. I've got to fix you. I've got to produce. We've got to create. We've got to become. I can't just enjoy you for you. There's no rest in that. But the God who rests, man, when we get that rhythm, right? And we're not just talking about just unplugging, but we're resting fully. The whole thing becomes you are embraced. You are able. You are loved unconditionally. Rest just the way you are. It's no longer a list where we have to impress and care and do. And here's the thing. When Holly says, I love you just the way you are, all of a sudden it makes me want to do something different. Isn't that weird? Like it makes me want to become better because she likes me just the way I am. I'm okay. And if this is the God who rests and enters in and calls us to rest and enter in, no longer is your worth, your value, your identity from what you do. You don't have to pull your bootstraps up and have your life together to enter the doors of the church and connect with the Almighty because He's the God who is fully resting. But the crazy thing is, when you know that you're accepted just the way you are, it kind of makes you want to do better and different. It all of a sudden helps your perspective see what's most important. Not that my value comes from how big my paycheck is or how many days in a row I've gone without a day off or how many things I was able to accomplish that don't make it to my tombstone, but I get to rest, fully present in the moment, in what has been done. I get to rest in the real thing. I don't want to miss it, and I don't want to lose myself in the process. All the work is done, even if it isn't. I'm going to invite the band to come up. And as we enter into the holiday tomorrow, Labor Day, It's a day that our society itself said people are working so hard to produce all the time, they need a day to just stop laboring. Isn't it interesting that when relationships break down, when society breaks down, what do all of a sudden we start to realize? Oh, nobody was resting. Nobody was taking Manuha seriously. So this morning, as we head into the holiday tomorrow, maybe you're scheduled to work. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you will take the day off. Maybe you won't. But perhaps with the idea of Manuha, you have come to realize that for you, your identity, your value, it's always in the results. It's always in the production, and it's like a drug because it makes us feel important. And maybe this is your when do you Sabbath busted moment. Perhaps because you don't rest, you're missing out on the relationships and the beautiful reality that God is inviting you to enjoy right here, right now. Maybe you're working so that you can feel okay about yourself and about your life. The God who rests says, you're okay without that. You're loved unconditionally. Rest in that. Rest assured in that. So my question for us this morning is, when do you rest? When do you Sabbath? When we do rest, when we do Sabbath, we create and live into a sacred rhythm that allows us to not get distracted or disoriented with where the real stuff of life is, because it's not your work and your toil. The real stuff of life is the manuha, the moments that God has provided. It's what all the work is for. Being present with family, with friends, with the divine, being fully connected and fully engaged. When we rest, it resets our perspective because it's the good part and it's necessary. So in response, I just want you to stand for a moment. If everybody could, just around the room, stand for a moment. And there's a song that we're going to sing. It's called Give Me Jesus. It's a really simple song. But it's the whole idea that today, I won't be distracted with production, creation. I'm going to rest because all I want is the relationship. I'd invite you to create a sacred rhythm in your life. But if you can't start right now, in the next few moments, it's going to be really tough. So start right now with the song. And if you need to close your eyes and get away and just be connected and rest with God for a moment, do it. And if you have something weighing heavy on your heart that you need to just say, God, here it is, and I don't know what to do with it, then say, here it is, and cry it out in prayer, because the God who rests is fully present, saying, yeah, I'm in this situation. You just don't see me at work yet. Rest. Be present. If you would sing as a response.
Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Forgive me, Jesus. Give me the one my soul delights in. Give me the one in whom my hope is securely found. Give me the one my soul delights in. Give me the one in whom my hope is securely found. Yeah. Securely found. Securely found. Securely found. Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus.
Perhaps this morning you are in need of a physical rest. And maybe this morning, as you walked in, you were the person trying to bootstrap and earn your favor with God because the God that you understand demands something from you. But the God of Scripture is just the opposite. Just wants you. And so if you've never started a faith relationship and you've been tirelessly searching for what your purpose, your identity, and your value is found in, I want to invite you to trust the message of Jesus, that you are loved. So may you, my brothers and sisters, may you walk from this place learning to manuha. May you find a sacred rhythm where you cease working to become fully present, a part of a different rhythm. And may that reorient, rewire your minds and hearts so that you know the truth of the reality of this world. That there is a God who is resting, who is delighting, and who is fully present with you. And may you be love. Go in peace and have a fantastic Labor Day. It's going to be a good week.